Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things. In this very interesting conversation with Raghu Srinivas, I explore how he has built various bridges. First, from a personal change, where he moved from technology to business or adapting to the changes. And he also shares some of the anecdotes as to how having business as a spine of the body, right? It has to be strong as well as flexible or adaptable to change. And he talks about common sense of vision, purpose, and commitment that's built over trust. Listen on to Raghu Srinivas.
Hi, Raghu. Welcome to Software People Stories. Thank you for
Hi,
coming
Gayatri.
here.
Hi, Gayatri. Thanks for having me into this conversation. Thank you so much.
I have known you for a long time, Raghu. I would like you to introduce yourself to our podcast listeners.
Yeah, I'm Raghu Srinivas, hail from Bangalore. Did my schooling and did my degree also in Bangalore and moved on to Chennai for work. I work for HSBC as a strategic business change consultant, a senior manager, and I have a family, wife, and a son, 10-year-old.
All right, fantastic. Yeah. So you started as a developer, right, in the software side of things, and you moved towards the business slash business analysis slash change management side of things. Can you share how did your initial years of being in pure software or and moving into the business side of things happened?
It's quite interesting actually because I did my chemical engineering in Bangalore. I had no sense of technology or computers. I must say, Tata Consultancy Services hired me early on. I think it was my honesty in the interviews to say that hadn't even handled the computer that got me through. But I think from there it has been quite a journey. Like you said, I started as a software developer, grew through the company, managing projects all around development, software development, and primarily in legacy mainframe technology back then. Subsequently, I think it was a conscious decision after nearly eight years in Tata Consultancy Services, and then followed up with my stint at RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland. Again, technology delivery. I think somewhere down the line, when I was about 10, 12 years into the industry with development, I realized it was more of a decision to say, okay, I need to look at the other end of the spectrum, right? I think technology delivery had given me a huge experience all around testing, development, implementation, change management, but all from a technology sense. But then I wanted to see what it feels like to be the other side of the table at the business. That's what prompted me to actually make quite a movements are not so easy in any organization, right? There are processes to make movements between teams, between departments, and moving from a technology side to the business also wasn't easy. But I think there have been people who've helped me along the way to help in that transition. Definitely, my colleagues and people who helped make me make that shift. But I think it was a need to basically have an end-to-end view of things that really pushed me to, business analysis on the business transformation side in a way.
So you did the additional degrees to make that happen. One is helping hand to push you towards, but first is that resolution that I need to do something different, right? I think that itself is a big difference. So what is there any story that you want to share that said, aha, this is something that I want to do?
See, I think one person who is very instrumental, I must mention his name, Madhu Sundararajan. He also runs a podcast series he's based out of Melbourne, Australia. So he actually helped me make the move into the business transformation. I had almost like a spark of thing to say. I was doing technology side PM kind of roles, and I had done business analysis on the IT side. But I think he was a self-driven kind of a person, and who takes others along. So that is a very good leadership quality that I think he naturally possessed. He pushed me into getting my CBAP certification back then. In fact, sometimes I think in life, people come into your life, you don't realize that they take you in a particular direction. It happens all the time, I'm sure, for people. And this podcast is timely because I kind of enter my 20th year of my career this year.
Nice.
So I feel very nice, Gayatri, to be sharing this experience. Yeah, but I think point number one, I think, was my inner desire to do something more than what I was doing. That you have that typical dissatisfaction with where you are sometimes, right? I think you want to do something more. You don't know what's missing. For me, when I did a self introspection, I think the natural thing that came to me was I think I was missing the bigger picture, the end-to-end view. And then Madhu came along the way, and he kind of helped me make that transition, right? It is like a catalyst, I must say, because he was more of a friend. I received it much better than what it in a typical mentor-mentee relationship. I think what happens is you be a little stifled, more formal. He would be like, what the hell are you doing, man? Come with me. And we did the CBAP course together. He pulled in 5 more people, and that's how I transitioned. But I think it is that fire to do something much more than what I was doing. I was just missing it after 10 years into the career.
Very nice. Very nice. In fact, I was thinking, it sounds like a mentor-mentee relationship, right? For example, when I moved from a pure software development to a more of solutioning, pre-sales kind of a world, there also one of my mentors only pushed me saying that, yeah, you are able to see this, you'll add more value here. I think there are, it's not that I actually have not thanked him after that. So actually, a lot of people in our world actually come and make that small change and say, hey, you know what, you have skills here. Sometimes we have our own blind spots, and they actually help us.
Very true, Gayatri. I think if I look back, there are a number of instances where this happened, even within the technology career that I had early on, right? There have been instances where people have come in and exited, and we do stay in touch occasionally, but I think the impact they've had on me, on my career, it was not visible back then, but I've been able to appreciate that much later. And I'm very grateful to many of those people, definitely.
Yeah, very true. So you speak about personal change, and now you are leading the change management, right? Talk us through a little bit more about it. I know from a change management, I've been in that area from a agile transformation part of it, from a technology side of things, right? So what kind of a change management are you responsible, and how does that relate to the technology side of things?
Right. I think what I'm right now involved is with large scale strategic transformation that happens within the bank, specifically in the commercial banking space. I've been initially with global liquidity and cash management, and then right now with global trade and receivable finance. But fundamentally, I would say the sea change from technology side transformation, the way we view it, and from the business side is, I think the business side gives a little more insight into where that idea originates to start with, right? Why is it that is a particular technology change is required? In my space, we don't do just technology change. We do process re-engineering, could be organizational location strategy kind of work. So I lead teams that do both location strategy, deliveries, which could be process migrations globally between jurisdictions or markets, and plus the transformation in the sense where technology enables transformation for the business, process automation, and process re-engineering, replatforming kind of work. So the difference to your question, I think it helps give you the end-to-end picture. It has helped give me the picture that I was looking for, right? Where there are many missing pieces of the puzzle when I was doing it on the technology side alone. But then where the idea originates, what the problem statement is, and then how that journey you take on to realize what technology change is required, And then it doesn't stop there, right? It also, I think the industry also has matured in the last 6 to 8 years. If you see, I think it has been very outcome based deliveries, right? We want to make sure that we invest money, we need to see the benefits come through. I think so. The business side transformation focuses heavily on change and implementation, I would say. So in a way, we start in the business side transformation. You start like a consultant, you become a business analyst, then you become a project manager, and then you become a change and implementation manager. In a way, if you want to speak of it in terms of roles that we typically have in the industry, right? And then the change and implementation manager takes it to the point to almost like a portfolio PMO, where then you start delivering benefits and measuring those benefits and ensure that the benefits are realized and booked. So your investment of say X million should translate into the tangible outcomes that the vision was all about. So I think the business side transformation, change management has, I think, given me that space to look at it end to end in that sense.
Fantastic, Raghu. You're almost saying that, how within technology you see one slice of things, but while from a business side of things, you actually see end to end and start from that small idea. And so one of my earlier boss used to talk about action and activities. You can do a lot of activities, but unless it goes into fruition and long term action, it sort of doesn't translate, right? You're talking about drivers and outcomes, right? Outcome, unless you see those outcomes, that benefit doesn't get realized.
And I think I must mention that in this whole journey that I mentioned, technology is a key enabler in most parts. I don't mean it's a very small slide. It is not. It is a thread that runs right along this whole journey, because for POC, we require technology support. For subsequent feasibility studies, we need technology support. Actual deliveries, functional specifications, we need technology support. So I'm not undermining the importance of technology in any way. I think that is a thread fundamentally running like a spine across the whole thing of the whole transformation in whenever we do technology transformation, related transformation.
I agree. I think sometimes outside skin is one thing, but actually the spine is what keeps us all going, right? If you have a healthy spine, you have a healthy life. Talking about the whole change, right? We use this model of Atkar to kind of go through the change itself. But from a business itself, right, as a business model, banking and overall financial sector has gone through, I shouldn't even to call it as change, should call it disruption. It's being disrupted. Now I use Google Pay, which has nothing to do with, it's not a financial company at all, but I do have Google Pay and quite a few other applications for my financial needs. Given that as a ecosystem or a macro context, how has that changed your perspective, Raghu?
I think long term these days has become 3 years and 3 to 5 years. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to use the word unfortunately, but I think that's the fact of life today, right? Any investment that the bank tries to make, we don't know if it will continue to pay back beyond the 3 to 5 years mark, because like you said, disruption is so imminent. It's not even something that we think may happen. It is surely going to happen, kind of a scenario. So I think that makes it very challenging. You have to build solutions that are future proof, solutions that are scalable. I think so when we kind of start any of this journey, right, or try to address a problem statement, I think a lot of things that come into mind is how do we make this future proof? How do you make this scalable? The business growth is at X%, and you want to actually make sure that this is a scalable solution. Otherwise, you're not going to have a sunk cost of millions in just 3 years' time. You don't have enough time to get the money back, right? So I think this whole mindset of being conscious of that has become very, very significant in the recent years, I would say, at least in the last 5 years in my career, I would say. Outcome-based also, right? In the past, when I was early on, it was more about delivering the code or the output, implementing a platform or an application, right? But now it's about not just that. Disruption is coming your way. You especially when it comes to UI, right? We moved from an era where, at least in my career, I saw mainframe CICS screens to then Java, and then when you're talking about much more sophisticated, intuitive features, which again don't seem so intuitive 2 years down the line, right? And the expectations on performance also has gone up with cloud, etc. So I think it keeps you on your toes, is what I would say. It makes us look at problems more from a future standpoint, right? It's not about what we want today, it's about what we want and which will be good enough 5 years from now as well. At least 5 years, so that we can make a return on what we've invested. I think that consciousness is inevitable more than anything else, is what I feel. And that's the mindset largely. Rest of it is the mechanics of it, right? How you go about doing it. But I think it's the entire mindset that has completely changed or disrupted in a way.
In terms of earlier, I used to have a 7-year plan, 5-year plan. Now I no longer see this. I say, okay, next 2 years, 3 years, what am I going to deliver? And how is it going to happen, right? And more importantly, what you said is, as a autocrat, if I can call you, where you've been a technologist, but also you are in the business, being able to say, okay, what will be good enough for 3 years down the line needs a lot of visioning power, right? In terms of product visioning, more of big picture thinking and everything. How do you really get ready for such a role? I understand you are CBAP, you are a CSPO, a lot of those certifications you've had, but that by in itself, does it give a thinking model, or do you do something else to get yourself prepared for that?
See, of course, when there are bigger and broader decisions that are made, right, in terms of solution, of course, it's a team. We all, we have the product owners who are extremely knowledgeable. How it has worked, especially in the last 3-4 years, because we are on a huge transformative cognitive automation related, solution. It's absolute consensus, democratic, open forums that bring about points of view, and at the same time, once you allow that space, which is not the space that I'm only responsible that I'm allowing it, but I think as a team we have a culture in HSBC which is nurturing that kind of an open discussion, which gives you a lot more confidence in your decisions, right? Once you come up with certain decisions and options, it's a collective decision making that gives you a little more confidence if there are any doubts or inhibitions in the decisions you're making, because they're long lasting. You have money in play, which are accountable, which each one is accountable for. From a knowledge perspective, Gayatri, what I've realized is which is why many times when I have people coming to me for some inputs for their careers and stuff, what I feel is going into business transformation from a technology background has immensely helped, because I think I'm able to challenge. I'm able to appreciate the challenges that might arise from a technology angle. There might be solutions that you think are, this can be done, right? But you know what goes into that, because I know the 9 yards of what goes into technology delivery of that, right? I think that has played a huge role, especially when I moved into business transformation, because that was a stage where I was using my technology experience to completely build whatever things that I was trying to build on the business side, right? Sometimes the business people who work purely on the business side of transformation may not be able to fully understand the complexities also. So I might be a little more forgiving with technology sometimes, which helps delivery, by the way, because I know the challenges. But apart from that, I think being aware of what's going on in the market, I think that is a conscious effort to see what other similar solutions are there. And we do spend a lot of time to assess what other solutions are there, what is that capability, where does it stack up versus what we are building, right? So being aware of that. Certifications, on the other hand, like you mentioned, CBAP, CSPO, and also I've done a change management specific certificate. I think those have, I would say, immensely helped, especially on the change management side. We don't literally take everything into real life. Unfortunately, we can't. You know of a change curve. You know, people when they put through a change, they go through a lot of emotional things. But then in real life, to translate that, I think that knowledge helped me build my own frameworks when I'm delivering change. It may not be the template that they recommend, but I know what suits this. So it has helped me become more creative and apply things to fit for purpose in a way, whether it is a framework or whether it is strategies or techniques and tools. So I think broadly, I would just say these three things. Yeah.
So any stories that you can share without revealing the intellectual property of it? Any stories that you said, okay, this is something that I wouldn't have done it if not for having this level of unique background? Because when you were saying this, right, I'm reminded of what Steve Jobs used to say, connecting the dots, right? You can't connect the dots early on in your career, but later when you come, then that's when your dots get connected. Be it change management, be it technology, be it transformation, or be it business understanding of the financial landscape. Any stories that you said, okay, hey, I have been able to do this because of so and so pedigree that I have created?
Interesting question. So I think I would say it has come handy on multiple occasions in different ways. I think when I did my first assignment after moving out of technology, it was a different feeling, because usually technology, sometimes we feel we're getting pushed, right? We don't know why we are getting pushed. What's the harm? One more day or one more week delay doesn't make a difference. I think there was an instance where when I recently moved into a business side, BA kind of a space, I think the technology was struggling to deliver. And my bosses at that point didn't probably recognize that there was a real challenge out there for technology, right? See, what happens sometimes, a good thing and also a sad thing sometimes for technologists, call them that, or developers, or is the business thinks you know everything. I mean, you technology, right? I mean, how can you say I don't know what is going on, right? I think that was an instance where we were getting pushed big time for a particular delivery. It was in the payment space, and you know how that can be a regulatory change in the payment space. The testing had to happen. So what I did back then is they were working on different floors. So of course we were in the same building, right? So the business wouldn't go. We on the business side was offshore, so I was in one floor, and then I said, "Look, I think they genuinely have a problem. I'll go sit there and I'll see what their challenges are." So effectively, I was able to bargain. I go down, understand the challenges they're facing. They were having a lot of configuration-related issues and genuine challenges, which I think there was a knowledge gap, which is quite there. But I think it's quite natural for any technology offshoring team to have certain knowledge gaps. And it's not that everybody on the team has the same level of knowledge. But then there are also some technical constraints there, which I could understand being closer to that. Then I was able to bargain a week or more. But then we delivered that successfully without further delays. Otherwise, what can happen is, in this kind of a scenario, people are pulling at each other, and then the work also won't move because the constraints are there. I mean, they're not resolved, right? So then I tried to give my ideas to the technology team, and we collaboratively resolved some of those constraints. And because I had some other contacts from technology world, got them connected, and then we got that results sooner than later. So I think definitely this is one example, of course, but I think there have been many such instances where appreciation for the challenges on the technology side has helped me resolve business problems and get things delivered on time. Definitely.
It also builds that trust deficit, right, on both sides. One is technology can deliver, or business understands what I'm trying to do. And the hardest also when technologists move into business is to not give solutions, right? You may have, let's say, you may know that this is a configuration, or could be a table that could be changed or indexed and all of that. How do you pull yourself back? Because if you go in and wear a technology hat to a seasoned technologist, that is a put off. Like, okay, what are you doing, right? Don't tell me the how, tell me the why. Right? I think, how do you manage that part? Do you prepare yourself further, or how does that happen? What kind of a mindset shift that happens?
To be honest, I don't hold back. But I think I see it in a way that technology doesn't think I know better than them. But I do. I don't know. I always have believed I need to put my ideas on the table, whether it is worth it or not. And likewise, the teams I work with also, right? I think even a new person who's very new to the stage has the same voice that I know what you mean. So there is that line where you don't want to frustrate the technology beyond a point. But I do try to make my points. And to be honest, although I've got myself far removed from the insides of technology for a while now, my ideas get taken sometimes, right? And I think that gives me the belief that, okay, I still got the relevance to make suggestions. I have the relevance. So I don't hold back on many occasions, unless if there is a understanding deficit in terms of technology itself on my side, I try to explore that more and challenge my own options when I still state that. So I use my technology colleagues' help to see why my idea doesn't work sometimes, right? Or if it works, why they have a different view. So I think it's about trying to share and understand it more than trying to get my point across or opinion across. But I do try to keep it open. I don't block myself from saying what I feel could be a good option.
Cool, very cool. Yeah, this is also imminent also when we look at it as an ecosystem, right? It's no longer that in-house built solutions only you're using, right? Sometimes you have to integrate with external parties. Right now, or that also is big change in financial sector, right? You integrate with other parties, or yeah, for example, I use a recent Reliance. I went to it, and they actually they have already integrated fully into a UPI partner. So it just gets directly comes to me, and then the payment happens. So I mean, so it means that there is no organization or no system which in itself can do everything. So it has to just leverage each other's strengths. Has there been any instances where you had to use both from external service provider as well as internal technology teams and bridging that communication or a business solution barrier?
Oh yes. I think it has been an integral part of the work I've been doing for a long time now. Because when I was with RBS, we did have a lot of service provider staff enabling our deliveries and programs, right? And again, later, even in HSBC, we do have a lot of technology partners within the bank and outside of the bank. And I think the industry, the market players have also matured and adjusted very well to this model of working, right? You have challenges right from integrating platforms to integrating people, sometimes integrating processes across the two sides. It is challenging, nevertheless. I think the fundamentals of communication, collaboration are key. Because at the end of the day, I have always believed that technology and tools are a means to get to something. But for that to work, I think the humans have to have a very, very smooth and integrated approach to things. A common vision, a common sense of purpose, common sense of commitment, and transparency. I think typically takes it forward. I think, and trust, right? Especially when it comes to service providers, there has to be mutual trust. Then people open up a bit more, right? People are more transparent with each other. I'm saying on both sides of the table, right? So it is challenging, but I think, like I said, I think the players we are talking about have all adjusted to this model over the years. So I think right now, I think we are in a good space where that is not becoming so much of a constraint, is how I see it. If there are attrition problems, for example, that we are facing, the service providers are equally facing it. The geographies are very similar. The challenges are, so sometimes you can relate to their problems, but you still have to find a way to navigate those challenges collectively, right? It's not that it's just their problem or your problem. It's kind of our problem because it's impacting a common objective in a way. So it's not easy. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I feel it's a lot of these ingredients that take it forward more than the technology constraints, integration challenges. I feel people are skilled enough to overcome those typically. You have many people who are capable of solving those problems.
Look at it from more of a common purpose and say, okay, what is your common denominator, and use that to negotiate or influence your outcomes, right? I think uh, very, very true, Raghu. In fact, I'm just realizing that we have sort of encompassed your career in terms of starting from a developer to a change owner or a influencer, and working across without the organizational traditional. If you look yourself 10 years from now, if you have a time turner, how do you envisage yourself or your, and I say yourself, not just Raghu as a person, but also around you. How do you see that landscape changing?
Sorry, did you mean as a person or did you mean as an environment?
As an ecosystem, right? Let's say HSBC, banking as a provider, as well as technology enabling it. How do you see that changing, or do you see that really saying the same, that just that there may be more sophistication coming in? How do you really, have you thought of that?
Oh, yes. I think there have been a number of ideas we try to think, right, for every year when we go into our planning for the subsequent year, right? We sometimes get far ahead of where we can go because the purse that is open is limited. But then I think we will. I feel the industry where we are today, we are at different levels of maturity across in the sector itself. You see, if in the banking, not all banks have the same level of maturity when it comes to technology solutions and stuff like that. I think there is going to be, my view is there first will be a phase where there'll be a little more normalization happening, where everybody has at least a minimum capability, as we can call it, right? I think that itself might take another 5 years. And when we talk about minimum capability today, we're not talking about small things. We're talking about robotics. We're talking about chatbot capabilities. We're talking about cognitive solutions. We're talking about at scale cloud solutions. And these things take time to build fundamentally, right? And there's investments to go with it. We have a lot of ecosystem disruptions in terms of COVID and other things, which has actually pushed us back a couple of years. For any transformation to happen, I feel why I give that time from my own assessment is purely because there is a receiving party to it, the consumer. Whatever you put out there, the consumer also needs time to adjust. So keeping that in mind. So 10 years from now, I think 5 years from now is more of a normalization period, or what do you want, a steady state, till we reach the steady state period. And then we kind of have to take that leap from there to something more innovative and more machine learning to the next level, for that matter, and automation to the next level. I think to reach that minimum state which we are aspiring today, I feel to get to a steady state is 5 years. And from there on, I think there is no limit, to be honest. I think there is a lot of opportunity. I think when we sit around and look for ideas, people come up with all kinds of ideas. There are so many problem statements within a bank, and I think there's no end to it. And I think it is going to be very exciting for the next generation to be part of it, because I feel the next generation that is there today, the generations that are there today and who will be there at their peak in the next 10 years or 15 years, like you mentioned, are going to be a lot more tech savvy, a lot more intuitive, a lot more creative, a lot more vocal. I think one quality which the past generations, where we were unsure of whether to say it, we had a lot of hierarchy to look at and stuff like that. But I think the next generation is more outspoken. I feel our ideas can germinate and penetrate better when there is that culture. And I think that makes it very promising for the 10 years to come, because more ideas will get picked up, executed, and people will push their way to get it done. Is what I feel.
Test and learn, right? I think one is your idea and germinating, but also understanding whether those outcomes that you mentioned, right? Are you getting the right outcomes? Is that investment good enough? We continue. I think very, very fantastic long-term view. I think it's been a great conversation, Raghu. I have immensely enjoyed talking to you in this podcast. Any last words that you want to share with our listeners? Any advice?
I don't know if advice, but I think what has served me well is throughout my career has been honesty with my colleagues, peers, with people who report into me, my teams. Honesty, and then not stopping yourself from exploring new things. Be it a change from it could be as small as change from one program to another, change from one team to another. It's usually like sometimes I used to think of it like almost like a pregnancy. It's very painful. In some organizations, they make it more painful than what it is supposed to be. And hopefully those mobility issues, challenges that people have had, like I've had in my past, don't inhibit people from aspiring to change, make those changes. I think people have to give themselves time to learn for a period, but look to implement those changes, because otherwise that journey is not worth the while, right? You learn something for a year and a half, you have to put that to use, and then you go into a learning mode again. I think that's usually my mantra. 1.5 years, learn, implement that, learn, implement that. I'm sure there are so many things to learn, so many facets and aspects to learn in the industry, and whichever space I'm sure people are on the software side as well.
Excellent, Raghu. Honesty and being a lifelong learner and having that beginner mindset. Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Raghu, and wish you all the best for the last 2 decades. You've been excellent, and the next 2 decades as well. I wish you the very, very
Thank you so much, Gayatri, for this opportunity, and best wishes to you for. I heard you tell me that you have crossed 150 broadcasts, and I wish your team very well. And my best wishes to all the listeners of this podcast as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.